Hello, everybody. I am your host for today. Happy Cinco de Mayo. If you have been following Dr. Jared's or the Chiropractic First office page, you know that he has, for the past 30 days, been doing a 30-day study on the book, The Paleocardiologist, and he has finished that. So many of our current clients liked that and found much benefit out of it. So we decided we wanted to keep that going. And we decided that we would do a book that most of that you already have, Align Your Health. Now, if you are a current client, you would have gotten that when you first started, after you got your home care. But if you are not a current client and you would like the book, we can get you that. Just either contact the office at 779-423-2044, and whoever answers the phone will be able to get you set up with that. If you are a current client and you don't happen to have the book, then just leave a comment below and we will be more than happy to set one aside for you and get you one at your next adjustment when you come into the office. So today I'm going to be discussing the foreword of the book as well as chapter 1. So the foreword of the book is actually quite interesting because it was written by a medical doctor, but this is a chiropractic book. He is a functional medicine doctor. And he went on to talk about some of the epidemics that we are having here in America, much more or less obesity. He mentioned how 36 to almost 37% of America is currently falling under the obesity, and about 86 million people are what they consider in the pre-diabetic phase, which will lead into type 2 diabetes if it continues to go uncontrolled. So dive right in here to the foreword. Dr. Mark Hyman is the one who did the foreword here for Dr. BJ Hardick. And one of the quotes that he has in here that I really like that says that we're reactively managing our disease instead of proactively controlling our health, which is so true. A lot of us are just caught up in managing symptoms and trying to get through and manage our health rather than actually trying to capture health and move actively towards that. But going through this book, we are going to talk about what that means exactly and how to get through that. So something else that he said in there is that your biology is not a lottery. Your genes certainly play a part, but they're not the end all be all. Now, you do have something in your body. It's called epigenetics. It's one of the more newer sciences or one of the more newer disciplines, but they're finding out that you are able to turn off and turn on genes based on your lifestyle and based on your day-to-day activity. So we don't have to be bound to the notion that, well, my mother had this or my father or my grandmother had X, Y, or Z disease. I'm doomed and I'm going to get it. It's not necessarily the case. One other quote that he had in here was he was talking about a diet, a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet may have unintended left the role in the current epidemic obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and can no longer be defended because it's been self-evident that this type of eating is not beneficial. And we are going to go through this again in great detail. So let's jump right into chapter 1. The title of chapter 1 is called Modern Health in Disarray. And in this chapter, Dr. BJ Hardick is discussing how the current views on health aren't quite adding up and equaling health for people. So, he goes on in this book and starts out and says that this should be one of the most healthiest times in America by our benchmarks. However, it's not. We have more technology. We have more access to information. We have all of the things that we should to create more health, yet it's not exactly what we have. We are actually ranked very far down the top healthiest nations list. So, we have more health food stores, more access to fitness coaches, more access to gyms, more fitness experts, but we're just not the healthiest that, we've ever been in this time. Chronic disease is more prevalent and the most preventable form of health concern, but yet the visible health concerns or health ailments are the ones that draw more attention to us. So if you are physically sick or, have let's say IBS or a Crohn's syndrome, where, you have a visual, it's more likely to draw more attention and create more attention for a person versus someone who has, say, obesity or diabetes, something that you don't see as much. Goes on to talk about how the modern healthcare has ballooned up to $3.2 trillion per year. 10% of that comes from medications alone. Now, one thing that Dr. BJ says here on page, excuse me for just a second. Says here on page 16 is that without addressing the cause, you're left spending more and more and feeling worse with having no end in sight. Now, I don't know how many of you watching this video have ever felt like that, like you had something that was going on and you're chasing and trying to find an answer, yet the answer hasn't occurred or hasn't come about. And it's because we've gotten caught up, like I mentioned earlier, in managing symptoms rather than trying to find the cause. Now, when you go after the cause of your problem, that's when you can really start to see the change in your health really occur. So, there is a time for everything. Don't let me mislead you into thinking that I'm all anti-medical, or we are definitely not, anti-medical model here, but there is a time for everything. Many interventions are required to save people's life in an emergency or a crisis. But however, with the Western mindset, it's become more of like the go-to. And, prescriptions alone, he goes on here to say that, the author says prescriptions alone don't make the person well, but what they do is they create conditions that will enable someone to live a better life and have a better context to their disease. So you're living a better life within the context of your disease, not necessarily trying to eliminate the disease, but just necessarily trying to manage the symptoms and make it more livable or more tolerable to live with. Moving on to the next page, on page 17, he talks about how in the Maximized Living story and how Max Living got started. Now, he says in the beginning that you simply can't eliminate a food group or, a new product or take a simple supplement and expect to find health. It's more or less a culmination of all these things put together, and something that we're going to dive into very deeply called the 5 essentials. And how he came up with this, or how Max Living has come up with this, is the leaders, they looked around and they noticed that within their group that there were certain things that they all did and that they found were certain principles of health. I mean, everybody knows that exercise and eating well are two very, very important principles and foundations of health. But the other ones may come to surprise you. Now we're going to spend a video on each one of these essentials, going through them in depth, but what they are in terms of eating quality nutrition and getting quality water, exercising, and a very specific way of exercising that's going to increase your hormones for building muscle and burning fat for up to 24 to 36 hours after it's done, versus the traditional way where you only lose or burn while you are doing the exercise. Also, detoxing. Detoxing is very important because we come into toxins unintentionally with our air, our water, our food, or even some that we do take that, medications, they are chemicals. They do help us in certain instances, but they do have a toxic downside to them, hence the side effects that you get from a medication, as well as, the ones that we purposely introduce into our body, whether it be, alcohol or, other forms of street drugs or whatnot. So detoxing is very important because your body can only handle a certain amount of toxic load before it starts to spill out and become other symptoms. Now, the other essentials are going to be having a mindset, as well as that you can overcome a condition and be very focused, and as well as chiropractic is the 5th essential. Again, we're going to spend a video going through each and every one of these, and we're going to do this for the next 9 weeks. So I'm going to do a video each week on a chapter for the next 9 weeks, and we're going to cover this book and go through it in great detail. So I hope you guys found this video helpful and useful, got something out of it. The next coming chapters, there's a little bit more meat to them and a little bit more takeaway. So again, if you'd like to have the book, leave a comment, share, and we will get you this at your next appointment, or contact me directly if you are not on the page, and we will get you a copy of the book. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Have a happy Cinco de Mayo. Take care.